solidarity. We need to come in a little bit closer because Joey wanted me to sing the national anthem, but I haven't sang in 20 years. So we need to get a little bit closer. We're all gonna sing the national anthem because every single one of us needs to show our solidarity for this movement, for patriotism and for freedom, for our Constitution. Do we all know the words? Thank you. Hats off. Do we all know the words?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do a lot of the singing. I'm leaving it up to you guys, okay? All right, let's go. Ready?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed as the twilight's last gleaming, whose stripes and bright stars herald us fight. Oh, the ramparts we watch were so silently streaming, and the rockets were clear, the first team in air gave through to the night that our flag was still there. I'll say that star-spangled banner for the land of the free and the home of the brave. USA!
Keep going. You're not going to stop that chant just because you leave here today, okay? You're not going to go home and plop your fat ass on the couch and watch TV. You're going to go talk to some people and change the world, okay? Especially this country first, and then we can work on the rest of it. We need help. We need every single one of you, so please do not stop here today.
Yeah!
Okay, hey, so I got some large Patriot Prayer t-shirts I'm going to give out. Does anybody want one?
Yes!
Now, the next thing...
Too small for me.
Hey, one of these t-shirts sucks. Good one! Give me 3 X. As long as the crappy one.
I'll take it!
Hold on.
I'll take anything.
All right. So, hey, let's hear it for Carmen. Where's the?
You said they were all large, yeah. And I started back.
Okay, we have a donation thing somewhere around here, but hey.
Got it.
Okay, we're gonna pass it around. If you can, whatever you guys want to give. If you don't want to give anything, that's fine. But half of it's gonna go to Billy Wilson. Okay. So I want to read something here real quick, and then we're gonna get Stricklan up here. You ready to go up next? Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna read something real quick. So I was going through Angus Lee's website. That's the firm that's representing Billy Wilson. Okay. This guy's a constitutionalist, so you should check him out. Looking through his website, and on there I found something. He was talking about self-defense, and this is what I read. This is from Attorney General Eric Holder. Okay, you guys know who he is? Yeah. You guys don't like him?
The guy that murdered most of Mexico?
We can go on and on about a lot of things about this guy. Okay, so this is Obama's Attorney General. Okay. Former Attorney General Eric Holder recently stated that it's time to question laws that senselessly expand the concept of self-defense and argued that the government should impose upon law-abiding citizens a duty to retreat from an attacking criminal. Okay? Now, that's the thing that the government's trying to push. They're trying to push it so that you always have a duty to run away. So if you get attacked, and Stricklan's going to talk about something like this. If you get attacked, and they're saying that legally you have to run and you have to hide. So if you're a law-abiding citizen, what they're saying is that if other people are coming up to break the law and to block your truck or to attack you, that you have to either just take it or you have an obligation to try to run. I'm saying that as us law-abiding citizens, I say we're done running. Like I said, listen, you know, I don't believe in violence at all. I don't. Now, with that being said, I've always said I would rather go and exercise my First Amendment right in areas where they don't allow us to go. I would rather do that and then us having to defend ourselves, and there'll be a little bit of violence, than us just hide, right?
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to keep going to Portland, because number one, I wanted to irritate the mayor, but the main reason why I wanted to go, the main reason why I wanted to go is because they said we can't go in there.
Yep.
That's why. So we got to go in there.
Yeah.
We got to exercise our First Amendment right in the areas where we're not allowed to go, just like they did in the Civil Rights Movement. People hate it when I say that because they want to say that everything's racist. But I'm telling you, I was motivated seeing what they did in the Civil Rights, researching that. They went anywhere they said you can't go. They said you couldn't go to this diner. That's where they went.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what you challenge. That's what we got to do. That's the conviction and the courage that will really change this country. So the next guy we have coming up speaking, he went through a similar thing in Portland. Okay, I'll let him say exactly what had happened. Okay, he did serve time for, basically trying to defend himself. Well, I'll let him come up here and say it. So let's hear it for Stricklan.
My name is Michael Strickland.
Hey, Michael!
For several years, I was an independent news videographer of sorts. It started off as a hobby, but as time went on, I got more and more serious about it, and it eventually turned into my primary source of income. I like to film a lot of the protests and political events around the Portland area, things that weren't being covered by mainstream. Being able to post on YouTube was a great venue for doing that, because you're not limited to a little 2-minute thing that needs to run between traffic and weather at 6 o'clock. So I'd covered these for a number of years. I was also a concealed carrier. I had my concealed carry permit. I've been through tons of classes, even ones taught by DPSST certified instructors, the people who train and certify the police in Oregon. So a lot of the protesters don't like me because I film what actually happens at these protests. When they're assaulting bystanders, when they're smashing windows, when they're calling for shooting police officers. I was the one filming that stuff and posting it. Some of you might be familiar with my YouTube channel. It was called Laughing at Liberals. So on the evening of July 7th, 2016, as Trump was kind of rising to prominence there, I was out filming a protest. This was a Black Lives Matter protest. It was the day after that guy, I think outside of Minneapolis, Philando Castile. It's funny, I remember his name, but the protesters don't even remember his name. He was the guy whose girlfriend started live streaming in the car after the cops shot him when they told him to grab his wallet out to show his concealed permit. So they're out there marching for him, and I'm out there filming it. I don't go to these things to start trouble. I'm not there to argue with people. Bob can even testify to that. He's been at countless of these things, that I was at. I'm just there like a fly on the wall. I film what happens and I post it up. I'm more apt to ask questions if I'm at a politician's town hall, if it's a publicly elected official. But when I'm filming protests, I like to be a fly on the wall. So I'm standing there, filming the speakers on the steps, much similar like this in downtown Portland. You have hundreds of people in the street, not a single uniformed police officer to be seen. Now that's kind of contrary to their own directives, which state there must be a strong visible police presence. I personally have seen, countless protests where they have at least a couple rows of bicycle cops along the side, at least at first, kind of keeping an eye on things, helping to redirect traffic and whatnot. So I'm just standing there filming it. Next thing I know, I got a mob of these thugs surrounding me. They got their masks over their faces, they're carrying their anarchist flagpoles, which I personally have seen used as weapons to smash out windows during riots and whatnot. So they're making a beeline straight for me, and they're led by a guy named Benjamin Carenza. He is a very, very large guy with a very lengthy criminal history. He's been in and out of federal prison 3 times on a variety of different charges, in and out of county jails. So they start encircling me from behind, and they start pushing and shoving me, going, "Get the fuck out of here, get the fuck out of here." I'm like, "Hey, don't put your hands on me, don't put your hands on me." And I start backing away immediately. Obviously, these guys mean business. Obviously, they intend harm upon me. So it's stupid for me to stick around. So I start trying to back away immediately. People talk about this duty to retreat thing. I was trying to retreat just because it was the prudent thing to do at that point in time. So I'm backing away. A bunch more people come running into the scene. It's a chaotic, dynamic scene with people running in and out. I got all sorts of people up in my face screaming and yelling at me, people from all sides of me. So I'm backing up the block here. And I'm trying to get away from the situation. I'm backing up the block for 40 seconds after this guy started pushing and shoving me. And then another guy is circling around my back at this point. So my attention is diverted this way to this other guy circling around me and the bulk of the mob coming up that way. I happen to notice out of the corner of my eye, the big guy, Carenza, who started the entire altercation, is now coming up on my blind side. I happen to catch him out of the corner of my eye. At that point, I had every reason to believe that these guys were just seconds away from pummeling me into the pavement, robbing me of my camera gear. I had my computer gear in my backpack. I wasn't going to try to turn and outrun these guys. So at that point, I felt as though I had no choice. So I drew my gun straight on these guys. And I said, get the hell back. Everybody needs to get the hell back.
Did they?
Yeah!
Fortunately, everybody stopped and or got back. I'm very thankful for that. Now, I was trained to shoot until the threat has been neutralized. In my case, the act of me drawing the firearm was enough to neutralize the threats. So after I had it out for 7 seconds and everybody had gotten away, the threat was then neutralized and I reholstered. I continued retreating. A few other people came up to get in my face. Another guy came up and pushed me. But it had not reached the elevation of threat like in that particular scenario. When the police finally showed up, they jump off the riot truck. It's odd. The Central Precinct Commander at that time, Chris Davis, Assistant Chief, felt that this protest warranted having riot cops in strategic positions all along downtown, but he didn't feel it warranted having at least a couple rows of bike cops. Which is it here? Is this something that gets your attention, or is this something that doesn't? Seems like there's two contradictions of tactics there. So when they finally showed up, we're now 2 or 3 blocks away from where it all happened. They jump off their wagon, they draw their guns on me, they order me to the ground, and I try to explain to them, these guys attacked me, the big dude who was then, maybe from here to the, just the edge of the street here. So he was still somewhat pursuing me, even as I was trying to get away. And I tried to explain, these guys attacked me, I tried to get away, I acted in self-defense, I'm a concealed carry holder, I have my license in my pocket here. They didn't care about anything that I had to say. I implored them to watch my video of what had happened. They didn't care about any of that. So they tossed me away, they sent me off. I'll try to keep this short. You can go on my YouTube channel for longer explanations and all the video footage from what had happened. So I was initially charged with 2 misdemeanors of menacing and disorderly conduct. So I show up the next day at 2 o'clock for my arraignment. At this arraignment, this prosecutor, Kate Molina is her name, she pulls out this phony police report that I didn't even know existed, that someone had filed about 3 or 4 weeks beforehand. This guy named John Slaughter, who my only interaction with him is that he got in my face at an event about a month beforehand, screaming and yelling at me. He files a police report claiming that I was sending him threatening race-based text messages and voicemails, and that I have ties to white supremacist organizations, and that I drove by his house with my hand in the shape of a gun pointing towards him. Now, I barely even know who this guy is. I don't care who this guy is. The last thing I want to do is go around doing what he's accusing me to do. In fact, the night he's claiming that I drove by his house, I was caring for not 1, but 2 cats that needed medical attention. So I didn't even know this report existed. I was never contacted about it. So she pulls this out in front of a judge and starts reading this as if it was fact in front of a judge with all the TV cameras rolling. TV news broadcast it that night. She uses this report to justify putting a $250,000 bail on me, now upping this to felony charges, all for a guy who was targeted, attacked, trying to get away from the scene, acting in self-defense. So I'm fortunate enough for organizations like Oregon Firearms Federation and other people who contributed to my defense fund, because again, they tossed me in jail at that point on a $250,000 bail. So we were able to raise enough defense funds and bail funds to get me bailed out after 11 days of being in jail. And so when I get out, I then have to report to this pretrial release officer, which is similar to the probation officers. This person, Chelsea Fanua is her name, F-O-N-U-A. She orders me while I'm out, similar conditions to being on probation, but she can also impose other restrictions. She tells me that I cannot post videos on YouTube, I cannot blog, I cannot go on Twitter, I can't talk to the media, I can't go to political events. That's what she's ordering me while I'm out on this pretrial release.
They're afraid.
They don't want the truth to get out there. They don't want me to be able to tell my story. They want all these other people to be able to tell their false narrative about what had happened. So my first-person video, which had been immediately confiscated by the police, which is the only angle that shows the